Hello, back again, another Bible study with Pastor Mark from the Word of Life Fellowship Church in Omaha, Nebraska. I hope you're having a good day. I hope everything's going well for you and yours. Today we are going to look at something that for me has given me a lot of reasons to think and ask questions over the years. I think I'm finally getting an understanding of it. So, what is that? Well, in the book of Joshua, the 24th chapter, in the 15th verse, this is I don't want to use the word famous because that's not the right connotation here. It is an often quoted passage, and in fact, I've got a slogan on the wall here, thankful and blessed, and we have other things around the house referring to our thankfulness to God and for His blessings, His kindness, our faith in Him, etc. But there are people who have slogans on the wall that say, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." That's from Joshua chapter 24 and the 15th verse. But the 15th verse is actually kind of a long verse, and I'm going to read it for you. I'm reading from the New King James translation today on my phone here. Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. "And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Now I used to wonder, what and why in the world was Joshua even mentioning this? They have not only left Egypt, but they've come through the wilderness after 40 years of wandering. They're now in the promised land. They've had victory after victory after victory, and have conquered the land. They're inhabiting cities and dwelling in houses and harvesting from vineyards and olive groves and pressing olive oil from cities they didn't build and vineyards they didn't plant, that God gave them as they conquered the land that God wanted them to have. And now He's asking this question, who do you want to serve? To me, I always thought, in most of my life, I always thought that was a what's the word? Hypothetical. That it was like a hypothetical question. It was that's not the right word. Anyway, that it was the kind of question asked that the answer was obvious. But it wasn't. It wasn't. He was genuinely asking, do you really want to serve those idol gods? Do you want to do that? Me and my house, we're serving the Lord. Why would He do that? Why would He bring that up? Because they didn't actually do what the Lord said. When the Lord told Moses about this land He was taking them to, He said, I want you to tear down their altars, cut down their groves, abolish that religion from that whole countryside. Get rid of it. Destroy it. Let it not even be named in what you say. Eliminate it. But in all their conquests, you don't really read about them tearing down the altars and destroying the groves and the practice of those idol rituals to these false gods. In fact, in Judges chapter 2, the first verse, now this is a about the time of Joshua's death. So you should read Judges chapter 2, but I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to read the first couple verses, again from the New King James translation. Verse 1, Joshua chapter 2. Then the angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I led you up from Egypt and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. Now this angel, in the context of this, is truly an angel. What do I mean by that? The word angel, literally translated, means messenger. So this is a heavenly being that God sent, and he is delivering a message, and he's speaking on behalf of the Lord. That's why he's using the terms I. I swore to your fathers, I will never break your covenant. But it's the angel delivering the message. Think of it in that context. Verse 2, and you shall make, he's continuing this covenant. I'll pick it up here. And you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land. You shall tear down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. Why have you done this? Verse 3, therefore I also said, I will not drive them out before you, but they shall be thorns in your side, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. So the decision of the Lord at this point is, I'm not going to keep driving them out. They're going to be a thorn in your side, and their gods are going to be a snare to you. And the fourth verse says, so it was when the angel of the Lord spoke these words to all the children of Israel that the people lifted up their voices and wept. And they were very sad. But it was true. Because, and you can read it, keep reading in the next couple chapters in Joshua, you'll find that some of these tribes of Israel, one that pops in my head is the tribe of Dan, they were given their allotment. Joshua said, here's your boundary, that's where your tribe is going to live. And they went there. But they had to live up in the mountains because they didn't drive out the Canaanites who lived in the valleys. And so they stayed up in the hills, and the Canaanites continued to live in the valleys. Well, why didn't they drive them out? I can't tell you. I don't know. The same thing happened with a couple of other tribes, several other tribes. They took their possession, but they allowed the enemy to continue to live there in many cases. Why would they do that? I don't know. That's what the angel of the Lord asked. Why would you do this? They didn't destroy their religious practices from their land. So I was studying today, trying to learn more about this. And I came across something, and I thought, okay, maybe it makes sense. And I think the author that I was reading was trying to make sense of it as well. But what he says here, it's plausible, so I'll share it with you. Take it for what it's worth. It's not from the Bible, so take it as with a grain of salt. But he suggests that the Israelites didn't abandon the worship of God according to the law of Moses. They were adding the worship of Baal to their worship of the Lord. They had one God for crisis, and they had another God for everyday life, so to speak. You see, in their minds, God delivered them from Egypt. He brought them through the Red Sea. That's all dramatic, right? The various things he did for them in the wilderness, this is all power and very dramatic. While they were in the desert, he didn't bring rain. He opened wells. He popped water out of a rock, enough to water the whole host of the people and their livestock. It's miraculous, but he didn't bring rain. He didn't give them water by flooding the the desert and having pools of water fill. He popped it out of a rock. Think about that. So now, after all these years, and then he's like a god of war. He overcomes their enemies. He fights for them, and he drives their enemies out from before them. So it's possible that they may have thought of the Lord only in that context. And in my brief studies on Baal worship, Baal was considered the god that brought rain. He was considered the god that brought fertility to the ground and fruitfulness to crops, and also for population, fertility. Part of Baal worship involved temple prostitution and other sexual rituals practiced in Baal worship. This appeals to the fleshly appetites of people. And so they were like, sure, I'll embrace that. And instead of abhorring it and tearing it down and destroying it from their lives and driving the people out that God said drive them out, get rid of them, move them out. They've been evicted. This is your place now. Many times they let them live there. They let them live there. And yeah, you read, they put them under tribute, which means they made them pay taxes. And in one case, I think it's the Gibeonites, don't quote me on that because I've slept since I read that a couple weeks ago, but I think it was the Gibeonites. They tricked Joshua and the people of Israel into thinking they came from a far country just to come and say hi and learn about them. Turns out they lived down the road, and they were just positive they were going to get wiped out. But Joshua and the Israeli nation made a covenant with them that they wouldn't go to war with them. And then they find out they're right there in their own town, so to speak. So they made them people who went and fetched water and cut firewood. And they put them under tribute. They made them pay taxes, and they served a purpose. But they allowed them to stay. That isn't what God said. So they allowed these things to stay, and they stayed very close to where they were. So much so that they learned their religious practices. They saw them performing their rituals. They heard the names of their false gods, and they saw their idols, and they saw the people practicing their religion, and it was attractive to them. And like this author I was reading this morning said, they had the God for crisis, that would be the Lord Most High, and then they had this God they used for everyday life, which is not even a God. It's completely false. And this one is supposed to be in charge of rain. Now, some of you have already fast-forwarded in your mind when Elijah, the Lord said, call for a drought. And Elijah said, it's not going to rain till I say it is. And for 3 years, it did not rain one time in the whole of Israel. That's a long time, folks. That's worse than the Sahara Desert. It gets a little bit of rain every year, and it's a horribly bleak desert. That transformed the landscape. 3 years no water, that'll transform the landscape, no matter where you live. And then how was it that what was decided there? Well, what was decided was God in heaven is the God who brings rain, not Baal. And so the idea that Baal was in charge of bringing rain for the fertility of the earth and crops and life, the Lord was shutting it down. Look, that's not even a God. He can't hear you. Like Elijah said, maybe he's gone on a journey. Yell louder. And the prophets of Baal did. They yelled even louder. And then they used that precious commodity water to drench the sacrifice that Elijah had prepared. He even captured the water in a little ditch dug around the altar to try and contain it. And then the Lord, boom, answers with fire and burns up the sacrifice and even the water. It wasn't gasoline, folks. These were not stupid people. They would know what water was, especially in a time of drought. It was precious. It was not kerosene. It wasn't oil for a lamp. It didn't have oil in it to burn. It was water. And God burned it all up and proved He was the Lord. That's what He was demonstrating. But you see, Israel allowed the things that God said you shouldn't have in your life, they allowed them to remain close. And because they were close to it, over time, they ended up incorporating it in their own lives. And it was what became their downfall. Think about things in our own lives. Is there something in our own lives that perhaps maybe we shouldn't have in our life? That maybe we're a little bit too close to? Maybe we've allowed it to linger too long when we should have not had it as to be any part of our lives. And yet we live with it daily. We incorporate it into our lives. Maybe we even think about it and rely upon it. We don't have a God for crisis and a God for every day. There's only one God, and He's the Lord Most High, and He is the Lord for everything. He's not just a God for crisis. He's the God for everything. Let go of things that you might have in your life that maybe are not pleasing to God. Maybe He wouldn't be pleased with. Maybe it's something that takes you away from Him or distracts you from our purpose in Christ. If so, cast it off. Get it out of your life. Throw it out of your house. Get it out. Destroy it. Don't let it be mentioned again, so to speak, in your home. Keep Him first. Keep Him first. Serve Him. And we can't serve ourselves. In today's world, it's all about ourselves. I need some me time. I need to do this for me. Yeah, there are times when we need to kind of pull back and take a break and get some rest. And sometimes you have to do that for yourself. But don't be selfish about it. Life is not about me and it's not about you. It's about Him. If we put Him first, He said He would add all these other things to us. Those are the things we need and want for the me time, if you follow me. Well, hopefully this resonates with some of you today. God bless you. We love you. We hope to see you Sunday at 10:30. We're at the Hilton, TRU, the True by Hilton, on the main floor, conference room, 10:30. Right behind the scooters at 72nd and Haskell, which is just north of Grover. God bless you. We love you. Continue to pray for the Pavander family, dealing with the loss of their husband and father, Bobby, and also Miranda family, still dealing with the loss of Nico's father. Pray a special prayer for his mom as well. She's having a hard time. Still, Nico told me the other day, asked us to keep her in our prayers. Continue to pray for Joey and Lydia Aber. As the last I heard, Joey is still dealing with intense pain. I know that the Lord has an answer to this situation, and we just want the Lord to bring that to pass and quickly. Well, God bless you. Continue to pray for your brothers and sisters, and bring somebody to church with you on Sunday. We love you. God bless you. Have a good evening.